In Q3 of 2020, Twitch saw a year-over-year growth of 96% in viewership and hours watched, with YouTube and Facebook not far behind. Live streaming is here to stay and has no signs of slowing down. There are a few main things that every single live streamer is going to need in order to start streaming on whatever platform you're using. So first, let's start with a computer. So my live stream setup starts all with the hub of my iMac. I have an Intel-based 2020 5K 27-inch iMac with 64 gigs of RAM, an 8-core i7 processor, and the Radeon Pro 5500 XT with 8 gigabytes of video memory. Now I know there's gonna be a whole lot of PC heads that say, oh, you got an iMac for streaming, you should have just built a PC, custom made, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. PC is not for me. So whatever works for you, that's what works for you. Just make sure that your computer has enough RAM and the processor is great. So I have an 8-core processor in my computer and I have 64 gigs of RAM, which is gonna help me out when I'm in my DAW creating, with Logic or GarageBand, and I'm using a bunch of different plugins. I'm able to do that and stream at the same time. I would honestly recommend no less than a 6-core processor if you're gonna buy a different type of computer, but anything over 6, you should be good. And then for the RAM, now I used to live stream on my MacBook Pro, which was a 16-inch, and it was also an 8-core i9 processor. However, it only had 16 gigabytes of RAM, and so I was constantly running into issues with the fan blazing super loud while I was streaming. I couldn't really get good audio out of my streams, and also I was limited in what I could have open while I was streaming. So it is possible to stream from a MacBook like that, like a base model 16-inch or something a little bit more hefty, because I don't have the base models like the mid-tier MacBook that I have. However, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend something with at least 32 gigabytes of RAM. And if you're trying to avoid the sound of a really loud fan, either get a microphone that's going to stick out from your computer and not hear that fan in the background, or just get a quieter machine like one of the M1 MacBooks, because those are going to be really good. So that's the computer I'm currently using. It's got 4 USB 3.0 ports and 2 USB-C ports. This allows me to plug in my audio interface and every single piece of hardware that I have keyboards, I have machines, I have audio interfaces, all these things that need to be plugged in. I prefer not to use a dock of some sort to plug in, because then, you kind of run into some issues with if you use too much power. Next up is the camera options. So this depends entirely on your needs and what you care to show other people. If you don't care about super crazy camera quality and having something that looks cinematic that you can color grade, if you want something that works right out of the box, you can literally use the built-in webcam on whatever computer you have if it has one, or you can buy like some kind of cheap webcam that shoots 1080 or 720, whatever, from the store. Even if it's one that shoots 4K, you can buy one and attach that to your computer. However, I personally, since I have all this camera gear for my YouTube videos, I use the gear that I have at my disposal, which is my main streaming camera is going to be the Lxgend E2. And the reason I love this camera is because it is a cinema camera. It's a micro four thirds camera, so I already have lenses because my GH5. This has a lot of really nice features that are included with the application that you can download to control this thing from your phone, from your iPad, and even from your desktop. You can download an app to control things there. But it has this HDMI cable, which allows you to plug this into your computer and get direct feed from the camera into your computer, or you can use the Ethernet port to connect into your Ethernet port in the computer as well. And I cannot say enough how much I love the image quality of the Lxgend line. Now, it is a cinema camera, so it's a lot more difficult to use. There's a big learning curve, trying to figure out ISO and variable frame rates and bit rates and things like that. You really have to know what you're doing when you get one of these cameras. It's not automatic. There's autofocus in this camera, but it barely works. Let's be real. It's not that great. So this is a completely manual camera. This is something that I would recommend for people who have the time to figure it out, or they have the knowledge to not have to figure it out. They already know what they're doing. But this is the one that I use for my main head-on camera, and then I use my second camera, which is the Panasonic Lumix GH5, another micro four thirds camera, and this is my B camera. So this is my camera that I usually have on my my side angle right over there, and it shoots my close-ups of my hands playing the keyboard, or even just another angle of my face. I just love the way that Panasonic's image quality also looks. It's another Micro Four Thirds camera, so it's very, very affordable, especially the GH5. We've got the HDMI port here on the side that you can plug into with a few different peripherals that I'm going to tell you what you'll need to hook this up to the computer, as well as the USB-C. You can use that as well to hook up to your computer and use that to stream. And also with this thing, what I did is I bought a dummy battery so that I can plug it into the wall, not have to constantly swap out batteries, because obviously when you're streaming for 8 hours, you don't want to have to be switching out batteries for the entire duration of that 8 hours. Also, I do have this nicey rig that I purchased for the GH5 as well, and I basically use that to mount either the Atomos Ninja 5 here for like direct monitoring, because sometimes when I'm like this, the cables get stuck here, so I can't really see myself unless I can just monitor myself on the computer itself. But you know, I like to have this as a second way to monitor myself, just quickly glance to the side. And then the lens that I use for this is the Sigma 18-35 Canon mount f1.8 lens adapted with a Viltrox EF-M2. Don't use the autofocus with this adapted lens, just use the manual focus. And since you're streaming, you won't really need autofocus anyway, unless you plan on doing a lot of moving around and you don't have any camera people to focus for you. Now, the lens that I use for the Z-Cam, I usually keep this lens attached, which is the Leica 10-25mm f1.7 lens. And I usually attach this filter that I have on here. This is actually the Black Pro Mist, but that's where you get this misty look that you're seeing on the screen, and I like to have that look in all of my videos. I just fall in love with it. You'll see if I screw it off now, it's a lot more sharp, whereas if I put this filter back on, you see it's, look at the glare on the lights on the left hand side and then back of me. See the difference? One glows, one doesn't. So that's just something for my personal aesthetic choice. Now, when you have all of these cameras, these fancy cameras, not like some little rinky-dink webcam or whatever, so the easiest thing that you could possibly do, I know there might be people out there that just want to save money, they don't want to spend on extra equipment, but trust me, it eliminates every headache that you will ever have. So I recommend getting the CamLink 4K by Elgato, and this makes it to where you literally just use the HDMI that I talked about before. So the same thing that you use to plug in your TVs, this little cable right here, the HDMI cable, or if it's a micro HDMI, which I have in this Canon right here, you can plug that into your CamLink 4K, which you'll see right there. And then you plug this thing directly into the USB port, iMac, MacBook, computer, whatever it may be. You download Game Capture HD, plug this in, and then you select from the drop-down menu CamLink 4K. And then next up, I'm going to talk about what microphone I use. Now, this is the same microphone that I use to record my vocals. It's the same microphone that I use for everything, for my voiceovers. The Blue Microphones Bluebird SL mic. You can use whatever mic you have or what works for you if you have a USB mic. But if you do want something a little bit more professional because you're going to be recording songs while you're streaming, then go ahead and use whatever microphone you use to record your songs. So in this case, for me, it's the Bluebird SL, and I plug that into my other piece of hardware, which is the Audient Evo 4. This audio interface I'm going to recommend specifically because there are plenty of audio interfaces you could use to stream with. You could use a Focusrite, you could use M Audio, you could use whatever you want, Presonus. But Evo 4 has a feature built into its software and hardware that allows you to play your desktop audio through your sound system so that your audience can hear. This is called loopback. Extraordinarily useful for somebody who is on Mac. There's not really a way to kind of route audio. I mean, there kind of is, but this is an easier way, at least for me, to route my audio that I'm playing through my DAW or my iTunes, Apple Music, into my stream and still be heard and still be able to talk and things like that. Great features with the auto gain staging. You can set the audio levels of your microphone by pressing 3 buttons. The green button, which is the microphone button, then you press the number 1 or whichever input your mic is plugged into, then press green again. You start talking as if you were talking on stream, and it'll automatically set the level of your mic to whatever is optimal to not peak in the volume and also not be too quiet for your audience to hear. So you got that, plus the whole feature of loopback, playing audio through if you're doing music reviews or if you're recording your own audio and you want your audience to hear. I think the Evo 4 is the audio interface for streamers who want something that's easy to use and not hard to set up. So that covers our sound, our audio interface, and our microphone. So then what software are we going to need? Now I already talked about Game Capture HD to get your Cam Link 4K working and get your camera into your system. So you do need to download that Elgato software to get the Cam Link working. And then another piece of software that I previously mentioned, which is OBS. What I would recommend personally is that you use Streamlabs OBS or OBS. I would say Streamlabs OBS because you can utilize different themes that are within their marketplace. And this is how I'm able to get those cool neon light transitions that I have and different graphics that pop up on the screen when people super chat, when people subscribe, when different things like this happen, different events basically. It'll pop up on the screen and then you'll have like these cool graphics, and it's so easy to install. You can set different scenes, which some I have set for desktop, some I have set for a split screen, some I have set for just, you know, front facing, some is second camera angle only, so I can switch to these different frames. Use the link in my description. You'll get $10 off an annual subscription, I believe, and $9 off a monthly subscription if you use my link down below. So Friday the 17th, which is the same day that Bondi Blue comes out, Kelly's song. Oh, that's gonna be so good. We're going to be live streaming and we're going to be playing your music for free. People who want to get guaranteed plays, you can still pay. That's guaranteed. But I'm going to be taking some free submissions. We're going to be playing some music. We're going to be having fun. We're going to talk, hang out, make songs, whatever it may be. This is the day before I really kind of get packed up and get ready to leave. So I'm not going to do Saturday, but Friday, if you guys are available, stop by with your songs in hand, with your beats in hand, with spoken word, whatever you want to bring. Stick around because we're going to have a great time. And if you want to see, you know, how fun a stream can be, if you want to see how you can utilize a stream for yourself and how all this equipment works together, come watch my live stream. I'll show you exactly what the setup looks like that I talked about in today's video. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment if you have any questions or comments. Subscribe, turn on the bell notification setting to also be notified every time I upload a brand new video. And as always, I love you and stay legendary. I'm out. Okay.